Hi everyone, thanks for joining today's flow practice. We're going to be building some heat as well as releasing tension in the lower back. So let's go on ahead and get onto your mat. Beginning today's class seated or kneeling on your mat with our hands on our heart, taking a few deep, strong, grounding breaths, maybe closing your eyes, bowing your head. And continuing with that nice deep breath as we start to move through a few rounds of seated cat and cow, either from kneeling or cross-legged. As you inhale, open up through the chest, lift your chin, arch your back. And as you exhale, rounding your back to come into cat, bowing the chin and scooping the tail. Inhale, lift and open. And exhale, round and close and stretch. Taking a few more breaths here, moving with the speed of your breath. Notice how that feels for your spine as we're lubricating and warming everything up. And then coming on to all fours, continuing to breathe through cat and cow here, lowering the tummy, lifting the tail, lifting the head, and exhale as you move into cat, scooping the tail, dropping the chin. Really aiming to feel as much movement as you can here, making the movement as big as possible, moving all the little working parts, all the small little bones through your back. One more time. Perfect. And just pausing here. And now we're moving into threading the needle. You're going to pick your right arm up and you're going to thread it underneath your arm, reaching as far through onto the opposite side, either coming to rest on your elbow, or if you can come all the way down and rest on your shoulder with your ear coming down to the floor or your mat. Breathing here. Good, and let's pull that arm out. Let's reach it back up to the roof. And one more time, just thread it through. Reach as far as you can. Reach, reach, reach. Good, and then come on and pull it back out. And one more time, all the way to the top. And reach through as far as you can. Reach and release. Coming back to center. And we're gonna go ahead and do that on the opposite side. Lifting the other arm up, maybe looking up, and then reaching through and holding to start here. At whatever level down towards the floor feels good for you. Don't overdo it here. We're just warming up. Good, and let's pull that arm out. Inhale as you reach up and exhale as you thread through. Reach as far as possible. Extend, and then let's pull that arm back up. Reach it to the sky and thread it on back through. And then coming back to neutral. Pushing your bum back to rest into child's pose, bringing your forehead to the mat. Either being a little more active with your arms and really reaching forward, or be a little more passive, let your elbows rest down here. Feeling a grounding as your tail presses down towards the mat, releasing through the back of the pelvis, the hips, as everything sinks towards your mat. Maybe moving just a little bit here, kind of coaxing any tension out. And then come on ahead onto your stomach. Walk your elbows ahead so that they're underneath your shoulders as we lift for Sphinx pose. And being a little bit active in this pose, stretch your toes back as far as you can. Lift up and away from the spine, pulling away from your shoulders. Neck is lifting here. Eyes are lifting. Chin is gently lifting. And this kind of back bend does put a little bit of compression through the lower spine. Not a lot because we're really lifting up and away, but it's almost like that bending in the opposite direction to help release tension here. Good. Floating back down towards the floor. Let's press back to downward facing dog. Moving your feet, wiggling your hips a few times here as we get settled into our practice today. Shifting the body weight back. Relax your head and neck, maybe moving your head a couple of times side to side, making sure your neck is nice and loose and long. Your ear should touch your arm bone as you tip it to the side. Perfect. Look to your hands, hopper step there. Exhale, let yourself fold forward, soften your neck, soften your knees. And then inhale, big swoop, come all the way up to the top. And exhale, taking one sun salutation as you melt and pour forward. Bowing your head, lifting a little, straightening your back, reaching for the floor, stepping or hopping back to a plank as you melt down to your mat. Keeping your elbows tucked in by your sides as you lift and peel from the floor for easy cobra, or feel free to add upward facing dog at any time. Release and press back using downward facing dog. Draw your belly button in and up towards your heart. Breathe. Take your knees gently down to your mat, shifting your weight back to come back into resting child's pose, Balasana. And then shift ahead to come on to your stomach. Elbows again walking ahead as we lift in Sphinx pose. And we are working on some back bending today, releasing some tension through the lower back. Opening things up. Good. Flattening back down, pressing back to downward facing dog. And you can press from your knees here if that's a better, easier option for you. Remember, we want to find that balance between ease and challenge and what makes our body feel good today. Look to your hands, hopper step there. Exhale, fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive as you swoop to come all the way to the top. Taking one more sun salutation here, pour forward. Let your body hang heavy. Inhale, lengthen your back, collarbones are opening. Reaching for your mat, stepping back and lowering as you ease yourself down. Inhale, back bending. And exhale, pressing to downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Shifting your weight all the way back. You should feel more weight in your feet than in your wrists and in your hands. And if you don't feel that, bend your knees a little more so you can really push yourself back. Taking your knees down to your mat one more time as we come into child's, but just briefly here, stretch back. And then come on, head on to your stomach. Elbows coming forward as we lift in Sphinx. And we release from Sphinx and press back to downward dog. Perfect. Looking to your hands, hopper step there. Exhale, relax your back, and we're going to melt in forward fold for a few breaths here. If you enjoy holding on opposite elbows or wrapping your hands around the back of your shins to pull yourself in a little tighter, but soften your knees enough so that it's releasing tension in your lower back and all through your hamstrings, and it's allowing you to get more of that fold by tipping our hips up. So your aim is to try to lay your tummy on your thighs. So you might not be there today, and that's okay. But if you're not getting there, try bend your knees a little bit more and see how that helps. Letting ourselves just dangle here as we pull or coax any tension out of our back, our shoulders, our neck, maybe moving your shoulders and your neck just a little bit, pulling that tension out, letting everything be free, maybe even moving your hips just a little bit. Perfect. Releasing the arms if they were held, and then swoop to lift to come all the way up. Bringing your hands down to your heart in Anjali Mudra, and just finding your breath here. Taking a long step back with your right leg, coming into a high lunge. As you reach the arms up, be long and strong with your arms. And then folding down and reaching for your mat, lowering your back knee to the floor. And of course, if you prefer a cushion or a blanket underneath your knee, tucking that cushion underneath. Reaching your arms up, lifting, opening through the front of the hip, gently arching the back here, but still keep your core engaged. So squeezing down through the middle. Reaching for the floor in front of you, or you could use a block here. We're going to plant our right hand on the ground as we lift our left arm to come up into revolve side angle, pushing through the back heel, trying to flatten your back body as much as possible. Good. You're going to untwist and you're going to lower your back knee again to the ground, this time taking your front foot and wiggling it out to the side, so giving a little bit more space as we drop into lizard pose. So let your hips come a little farther forward, sinking into that pocket, and then let your knee wander out to the side. So from the front, what that looks like is my foot is farther apart than where my hip width is. And that's going to give me room to open the hip a little bit more. And so as I let my knee tip out to the side, it's really movement that's happening at the hip joint here. So we shouldn't feel pain in our knee in this position, but on the off chance that you do, you're just going to come back and do that lunge in the straight on forward position. While you're here, maybe turning and looking over your shoulder just a little bit. Perfect. As we come out of this lunge position, you're going to plant your hands on the floor and you're going to kick that front foot all the way back to the ceiling. Reach it all the way up, open. Tuck your knee into your chest as you slide forward. Kick it back up to the roof and then step it ahead, coming all the way to your hands, or boost it there if you need. As you take your back knee to the ground, windmilling back to come into half camel. So maybe catching your heel with your hand, or maybe you're just reaching towards that space. We want to keep our hip open and long, not collapsed and broken. So not being in this position, this is not really benefiting us. So only go as far back as you can go while still keeping that hip forward. And should you need to have your toes or your knees off the ground here, you can always come into this lunging position instead. Perfect. Windmilling forward, stepping the back foot, one big step or a couple of little steps up to the top of your mat. Release your head and neck. Inhale, big breath, come all the way to the top. Exhale, taking one sun salutation, swan dive forward. Bow your head, lifting a little, flattening your back, reaching for your mat, hopping or stepping back, and then melting down from knees or from toes. Inhale, back bending as you shine your heart forward. Release and press to downward facing dog, using your breath to power you along here. Take your knees gently down to the floor as we sit back into resting child's pose. And coming ahead onto your stomach, walking the elbows forward as we press and lift into Sphinx, activating the muscles in our back, creating length through our spine. So imagine that you're trying to make a little bit of space between each vertebrae in your back here. Good. Release, flatten all the way down. Pressing back to downward facing dog. Pausing, holding here. Looking to your hands, hopper step there. Exhale, relax your back, lower your head. Inhale, big swoop, come all the way up to the top. Draw your hands down to your heart. Center your breath. Stepping way back with your left leg, coming back into that high lunge position. And find a place that your arms can be straight, wherever that means for you. It could be more forward, it could be more wide, it could be more together. But make sure your shoulders are feeling happy, lifting, but drawing down your back. Folding down and reaching for the floor, taking your back knee down to the ground as we lift to come up in low lunge. Opening through the front of the hip, Folding forward, press into the back toes, press into the left hand and reach your right arm up to the roof to come into revolve side angle or Parivrita Parshvottanasana. Untwist, and we're going to lower the back knee again, and this is the time that we wiggle the front foot a little bit wider to let your hips drop down into the center. Let your knee start to wander out towards the side as we open the hips a little bit further. Maybe starting to rotate and look over the shoulder. Maybe not. Just making sure that you're only taking the variations or the modifications that your body is really asking for you to take. If it's sending you a message that kind of says, that might be a bit too much for me today, that means it's way too much. Back off and be gentle. That's honestly one of the hardest parts of yoga practice, is not pushing yourself too hard. Good, come back to the center. You're gonna plant your hands and you're gonna press that leg all the way up to the ceiling. Tuck your knee into your chest, shift your weight forward, and then kick it back up to the roof. This time stepping it all the way up to your hands, or be sure to boost it if it doesn't get there as we look for a straight line between knee and ankle. Lower the back toes as we windmill back, opening in half camel, opening our heart, our hips, releasing tension through the lower spine here. Perfect, windmilling all the way back, pressing into the back toes and then stepping back to the top. Release and relax as you fold forward. Inhale, big rise all the way up. Energize as we lift. And exhale, take a sun salutation, Surya Namaskar, bowing the head forward. Inhale, lengthen your back. And exhale, reaching for the floor as we come through that strong plank position. We lower down. Inhale, one vertebrae at a time. And exhale into downward facing dog. Legs about shoulder width apart in downward facing dog, rooting all of your knuckles into your mat. Take your knees back down to the floor as you sit back into child's pose, Balasana. And now slide ahead onto your stomach, walking the elbows forward, lifting into Sphinx. Being as long as you can with your body here, not just lifting the head, but lengthening and reaching through the feet. It's like we're providing a little bit of traction for our spine, pulling or extending from both ends, from head and from toes. Perfect. Release and press back to downward facing dog. Pausing here. Looking to your hands, hopper step there. Exhale, relax your back, lower your head. And then inhale, big breath, come all the way up to the top. Bring your hands back down to your heart. Finding your breath, finding your center. As you keep your hands pressing gently together, try to bring your feet, your ankles, your thighs together here. Give them a little bit squeeze, everything pushing towards the middle as we sit into Utkatasana, chair pose. Finding just that little semi-squat. And you should be able to wiggle your toes here, but I actually want you to push your big toes down into the mat, helping to activate your glutes or your buttocks muscles. Perfect. And we're going to start to turn towards the right as you hook your elbow over your thigh. And it might not be all the way over, it could be somewhere in the middle, but take a look at what's happening with your knees. If one is shifting way forward than the other, then let's not twist quite so far so that we can maintain that position of the thighs. Perfect. As we're turned here, step the back leg or the free leg back. Coming into a variation of side angle here, hands are in prayer. You could also take your back knee to the floor as an option here. So if your balance isn't quite as strong today, let's take that back knee down. Perfect, you're gonna untwist, coming into a wide forward fold. So your legs should be about as wide as your wrists as you open up here. Let's take a little back bend, open up the heart as you fold forward, reaching towards your mat. Keeping the legs straight here, Stopping here if this is enough, and maybe this means that you need a cushion underneath your hands if they don't easily reach the floor, or a block or a book, whatever the case may be. If you have room to move, you're going to start to bend your elbows here, and I want you to think about shifting your body weight forward so it's really light underneath your heels. So we're not pushing back into the bum, we're actually reaching forward a little bit more, which is going to tip your hips further, opening up your hamstrings. And if you're inclined to bend your knees here, that's usually because the hammies are really tight, and we'll bend them to make the stretch easier. So instead of stretching the hamstring, we'll get more of a stretch through the glutes. So I urge you to work with straight legs here, even if that means you're not going very far down. Okay, that's the only way that we're really going to get in and open up the tension that's in that area, is if we target it. If we always skip it, we're never going to get any better. Perfect. From that wide position, I want you to walk your hands around towards your front foot. Turn your front foot so that it's facing forward, back foot staying flat, and open yourself up into triangle pose or trikonasana. Be sure to slide yourself up your shin as much as you need to really get a big openness through the chest and openness through the hips. So if you're kind of rounded or slumped down, that means your hand is too far down your leg. You need to come up higher so that you can really rotate open and flatten your back. Perfect. You're going to take the top hand, reach it over your head towards the front, and then bend your front knee, bring your hand down to the floor. Roll up on your back toes, and then press again, lift your left hand up to revolve side angle. So finding that nice twist as well. Working on releasing tension through the back. Untwisting, stepping up to the top of your mat. Exhale, relax your back, release your head and neck. Big inhale, energizes you, lift with a nice flat back. Taking one sun salutation here, exhale, swan dive back down, bowing your head. Inhale, lengthen, lift. Exhale, reach for the floor, and keep exhaling as we lower here. That's all the same breath. And then take a really nice big inhale for cobra or upward dog. Release and finding downward facing dog here. Shifting your weight back, softening your knees as we really open the fascia through the back body. So softening the knees helps release fascial tension a little bit more. Look to your hands, hopper step forward. Exhale, relax your back, lower your head. Inhale, big sweeping breath, come all the way up. Draw your hands back down to your heart. Find your breath here. Wonderful. Squeezing everything together through the center. As you come into that little squat, we sit in chair pose. As you press together and squeeze through the knees, I want you to feel your core engage and fire up here. And if you don't quite feel it, let's give it a little tuck in so that you do. Activate those muscles, make them work. Good, you're gonna turn and twist the opposite way, only hooking the elbow as far over as you're able. As we press into a small twist here. Perfect, you're gonna take your free leg and step it back to come into that twisting position. So from the side view, this is what it's looking like from the back side. Twisting, opening, remember your back knee could come to the ground here as an option. Perfect, and then let's untwist coming into that wide forward fold. Take a little open through the heart. As you fold forward, reaching for the ground in front of you. And don't be afraid to use a yoga prop to rest your hands or your head on here, depending on how much mobility you have in this posture. Making sure that your legs are not too wide, so we don't want to be in the splits here. We do want to make sure that we can still reach our feet. As you shift your body weight more forward, be light in the heels. I like to say like you're sliding a penny underneath. Good, and push your heels back down. Walking towards the opposite foot this time. As you open up into triangle, make sure you turn the foot to the front, reaching all the way up with the left arm. Big, nice breath here. And now take the top hand, reach it over your head, stretch out through your side body, and then bend your front knee as you bring that hand down to the floor, roll up on your back toes, and then bring the hand up to the roof. Untwisting, stepping all the way up to the top. Exhale, relax your back, lower your head. Inhale, float all the way up. And taking one sun salutation here as we wipe the slate clean as we fold forward, giving our whole body a little rest and stretch, lifting, lengthening, reaching, stepping back, lowering. Remember, knees is an option here. Turn the toes under and lift and press away. Moving to downward facing dog. Engage your core, draw your belly button in. We want to try to utilize as many muscles as we can to make these movements happen. That's how we build strength and endurance in this practice. Taking your knees gently down to the floor, sitting your bum back. As you rest in child's pose. And come on forward, coming into Sphinx. Lifting, lengthening your back, making sure that you're not slouching and sinking into this position. Perfect, melting down flat. Pressing back to downward facing dog as you draw in and up through your belly button. Looking to your hands, hop or step there. Exhale, relax your back, lower your head. And inhale, big swoop, come all the way to the top. Bring your hands down to your heart. Perfect. We're going to work on opening through the back of the shoulders just a little bit here. So opening your arms really nice and wide, feet just about shoulder width apart. And we're going to crisscross our arms, having our right arm on the bottom to start. And then as you crisscross through, either giving yourself a big hug or twisting up to come into eagle pose. And honestly, it really doesn't matter which arm position you take. It's really about trying to bring the elbows up off the chest and then pressing the elbows forward so you really get that big stretch through the upper back. So that's what I want you to feel, is that big stretch through the upper back, and maybe try both variations and see which one is truly giving you the better stretch and go there. Perfect, release the arms, take a little heart opener, reach back. And then we're going to go the opposite way this time. Other arm is on the bottom. And then we twist through, or we give ourselves that big, giant hug. Push the elbows forward, lift them off your chest. Feel that big stretch through your back. And this is a wonderful posture for anybody who spends any amount of time at a computer or a smartphone, a tablet. Go ahead, release the arms. And again, just stretching out. And then relax your arms down. Perfect. We're moving into a little bit of balance here. And we're moving into half moon pose. If you do have a yoga block, let's go ahead and grab it. If you don't have a yoga block, if you have a bolster or a cushion or a sturdy book that you use in place of a block, let's go ahead and grab that as well, just to have something to help us find a little bit more rotation in this posture. So we're going to set the block just down on the floor in front of us. And remember, your block has a couple of different levels. So depending on how much help you might need in this pose to find the rotation, if you're new to yoga or you know that you're not that flexible, I would suggest that you turn the block on the highest end. Take the most help possible. It'll only help you be better at doing the posture without the block sooner. So we're going to start by taking a short step back, about a half of a step, with our right foot. Stretch your arms out. Bring your back hand onto your hip. And then you're going to bring your front hand down. You're going to reach for your block or your cushion, and then you just want to set it up so that your thumb is in line with your pinky toe, and it needs to be about 1 foot to 1.5 feet forward. So when we start to lift the back leg up, it'll mean that our shoulder is directly on top of the block. okay, or our wrist is directly underneath. So make sure that you have it far enough forward, and then when you're ready, start to pick the back leg up. And we're looking to open through the hips, open through the chest, and rotate. So we've been doing a lot of prep work for this posture already today. And then maybe taking your hand off your hip if that feels good to you. And you can turn your eyes and look up to the roof if that's feeling okay for your balance. As you press through the toes like you're wearing high heel shoes here. For the fellas in the class, just pretend. Excellent. And now we're going down. Just find your balance. Coming to stand tall. Bringing your hands back to your heart. Whew. Okay, we made it through on the first side. So let's move our props so that we're ready to go on the second side here. And like I said, don't be afraid to turn the block a little bit higher, especially if that was a tough posture for you. If it felt really easy, then maybe turn the block down one posture, or definitely give it a go without. As well, if you do have the opportunity to practice this posture against a wall, it's fantastic for giving you that good balancing sensation so you know when you're straight. So if you're against a wall, your foot, your buttocks, your shoulders, and your hand should all be touching the wall. All right, let's take a half step back with our left leg. Stretching out the arms, bring the back hand to the hip, and then when you're ready, getting into position. Remember, thumb is in line with pinky toe. Arm is about a foot to a foot and a half forward. Of course, if you're taller, it needs to be just a smidge farther forward. And then decide at what level you're ready to take on this pose. So maybe it's lifting the hand, maybe it's turning your eyes to the roof. Breathing here. As you open your body, reach for that imaginary wall behind you, or go ahead and give this a try at the wall. Good, and then let's step down. Again, just lifting our body up, bringing our hands to our heart. Perfect. And we're not quite done with balance yet. As we move into tree pose, standing nice and tall, bringing our hands to our heart, and we're going to do a very organic tree pose today, where we're not lifting or forcing our leg up. We're just going to lift our right leg as high as we comfortably can get it without adding to it. And you want to ensure that your hip points, those little bones at the front of your hip, are pointing straight forward. So I like to just put my hands there, and then you can reach out and see where your fingers are pointing, and then that way you know, am I opening my hip, or am I just turning my whole body to get my knee farther to the side? Breathing here, as you root down through the floor, lift through your head. Find stability. And if you're feeling really strong with balance today, let's try closing our eyes. Good, opening your eyes. Don't worry if you lost your balance there. Take a step down, wiggle your feet. And then let's go ahead and try that on the opposite side. So lifting the leg, maybe checking where your hip points are going. Finding your breath. And remember, the eye closing option is only if you're feeling really steady with your balance. If you're struggling just to stay here, that's more than enough work proprioceptively for your body today. But if you feel like you're ready, let's give our eyes a close. Good, and let's step down. Remember, when you start to lose your balance, that's your body really learning to balance better, and it's finding its way. So don't ever beat yourself up or feel like you're a bad yogi because you can't seem to keep your balance. That's the way that you get better. Good, let's finish with one more sun salutation today, and then we're going to bring things down to the floor. Inhale, big stretch all the way up. And exhale as your body pours forward. Inhale, lengthen, lift a little. And exhale as you reach for the floor hop or step back. As you melt down, elbows wrapped by your sides. Tuck the toes in, inhale, peel from the floor. Release and press to downward facing dog. As you draw your belly button in. Perfect, and bring your knees down to the floor. And we're coming into child's pose here, and we're gonna stay here for a few breaths. So this is also a great place in the practice. If you wanted to grab a little sip of water, grab a sip of water, and then make your way back into child's pose. Good, and let's go ahead and come on up to seated on our mat. If you do have a small yoga cushion or a pillow or block, you may want to sit on it for the next posture as we move into seated forward fold. So when we sit on a cushion, it's going to help our hips just to tip a whole lot better in this posture. So as we sit near the edge of that cushion, it's like a wedge underneath our backside, helping our hips to tip more to the front. Gently pulling your toes back here, and you may want to use a cushion to rest your chest on here, or to rest your forehead on, as you soften and fold forward. Making sure that you're not feeling any pain or tension in your back here. So it is completely okay to let your body round and relax down into this, assuming that you don't have issues doing forward bends or forward folds. If you do, you may need to just stay more upright and stay straight and just tip a tiny little bit here. So find the right amount for your body. Aim to relax your head and neck and be gentle here. We can start a little easier and you can go a little deeper as we breathe. But don't feel forced to go to any particular place in this pose. So oftentimes that's how we may hurt ourselves in yoga, where we're pushing our body too hard or we don't feel like we can stay there. And it's because we're pushing too far or too hard. So be really gentle. Almost, if you're unsure, be a little more gentle, where it feels really easy and you know that you could go a little bit deeper, but you don't. You back off just that little bit. That can make a huge, huge difference for you. Taking just a few more breaths here. Good, and let's slowly just come up to the top. And you might want to reach your hands back and just take a little heart opener here. And forward folds are so nice just for getting all of the energy in our body moving in the right direction. It really does help line up the energy channels and can make us feel just fantastic. Now we're going to take a lie down on our mat. You may want to use that small cushion for underneath your head, or just keep one of your cushions close by in case you need it for the next posture. As we draw our knees into our chest here, giving them a little bit of a tuck. Maybe it might feel good for you to roll a little bit side to side. Just again, kind of feeling this out. This is your practice. So starting to know what feels good for you. Maybe you want to circle a little bit. Maybe you just want to stay steady and still in the center. Perfect. Let your knees come down. And then you're going to cross your left leg over, like how maybe ladies might sit in a chair. Knee over knee. And then you're going to pick up your bum and shift it a little bit over to the left side, and then let your knees roll to the right. And here's where you may want to tuck a cushion underneath your knees if they don't easily touch the floor on the opposite side. So you want to make sure that you feel fairly supported here, that it doesn't feel like it's too much tension. And if it feels like it's a little bit too tight in the twist for you, straighten your legs more. So the more bent your knees are, the tighter they are up towards your chest, the tighter the twist will be. And it eases off as you straighten the legs. If you like, you can add a little gentle downward pressure onto the top thigh. And then just stretching out through the opposite side, either looking to the roof or turning to look towards your outstretched hand. And as we look to the outstretched hand, that deepens the twist a little further as well. Making sure that you can breathe through the twist. If it's hard to breathe or you feel like you're being pinched or poked somewhere, that's a sign that you're twisted a little too far, so back off some. Good, and let's untwist here. And that might mean straightening your legs first. Just take your time as you roll back to the center, making any adjustments that you might need here, whether you want to just windshield wiper your legs a little bit or tuck back into that tight ball. And then we're going to twist to the opposite side. So as we cross our right leg over, shift the hips to the right, and then let your knees roll to the left. And that little hip shift is just helping you to better align your spine. So if you were looking at a mirror above your body, your head, your shoulders, your hips would be in one straight line. And if we don't shift the bum to the side first, we won't be in a straight line there. Maybe adding a little gentle downward pressure to the knee, keeping both shoulders on the ground as you stretch the opposite arm out. And if your shoulder's coming way off the ground, that means you're twisted too far. Breathing nice and deeply here. Deciding where you want to take your eyes over to the outstretched arm, a little more difficult twist. Stay right in the center, or even turning to look towards the knees. This takes a little tension out of that twist. Taking one more big deep breath here, and then untwisting. And again, just letting your body release how it feels most comfortable here. And then we're going to move into a variation of bridge pose. So starting with your knees bent, about shoulder width apart, heels close to your buttocks, you're going to reach your arms behind your head. And I want you to have your palms facing the ceiling and your shoulders touching the mat. If your hands don't reach the floor behind you comfortably, there's where you're going to tuck a cushion or a blanket underneath your arms so that they can rest on something a little bit higher. Now, keeping your shoulders down, I want you to inhale, lift the hips just as high as comfortable, and then lower your bum almost so that it touches the floor, but doesn't, and then pressing back up. So just nice and slow, going through this easy rhythmical motion, the whole time keeping your shoulder blades pressed and pinned down to your mat. And of course, if you need to rest to bring your bum all the way back to your mat in the middle, please do. As we lift and lower, you should feel no pain in your neck. So we're not pressing into the neck. It's really our shoulders and our head that are on the floor here. But if you do feel neck pain, come back to the bottom and rest. This exercise works on stabilizing the shoulders. So for anybody that's got some tightness, some weakness in the shoulders, always gets tight and sore, this is a great exercise for you to work on. Or anyone that has rotator cuff issues. Good, and on your last one, bring your bum all the way down to the mat and rest as you bring your arms back over. And again, maybe give your legs a hug, or maybe you want to stretch them all the way out straight here. Find a little bit of rocking. And then as we move into our last posture of today's practice, coming into happy baby pose. So gently pulling down from the feet, knees coming wide of the body. And if it's not easy to reach your feet, take a hold of somewhere else, your ankles, the back of your thighs, your calves. And maybe in happy baby, it feels great for your back to let yourself rock and roll a little bit side to side. Maybe you want to stay still. Maybe you want to do a little bit of both. Finding the right balance for your practice. I'm really here to guide you through the journey, but you're here to find your own path. So to customize the practice so that it suits your needs and your body on any given day. You might decide to go back and do this practice again next week, and you might make some different modifications or change some things or take some different variations, just depending on what your body is telling you that day. Good, and let's release our legs here. And now you're going to get prepared for Savasana. So as you let yourself relax and stretch out here. Maybe having a little more water, adding some clothing, letting yourself just get to this really cozy, relaxing place. And this doesn't have to be on your back. If you prefer to lie on your side or your stomach, those are great options as well. Maybe tucking a cushion under your knees or under your head. Again, this is your practice. Find that place that's ultimately relaxing for you. Close your eyes. With each breath out, you let your body melt a little bit more. You let go of a little bit more. And you allow your body to rest. You allow your mind to rest. And start to make a few small movements with your fingers and with your toes. As you breathe a little bit deeper and stronger. Taking your time as you bring your body and your mind back to your mat. When you're feeling ready, bend your knees and let yourself roll over to one side. And just resting there for a few breaths, not feeling rushed. And then slowly bringing yourself back to a comfortable seated place on your mat. We'll finish the practice with our hands at our heart. Loka Samusta Sukhi Nu Bhavantu. May all beings everywhere find happiness and freedom. Namaste.